you back in another video. In today's video, man, we're going to be talking about some of the best attachments in Modern Warfare 3. Now, I was going to do like a top 10 attachments and kind of go like that style. But I'm just going to show you guys the attachments that I'm talking about. And we're going to go through a couple of them and kind of give an explanation on why they're so good. So that way you guys can use these attachments on your guns. These are going to be universal attachments. I'm not going to use any attachments that are for a specific weapon, like for example barrels or something. It would be like ammo. These will be like, this video is going to be about mainly like ammo types, grips, red dots, etc. Things that you can use pretty much on all guns. Obviously there's some attachments that you might not be able to use on, say, like secondaries or whatever, but you know, you get the gist of it. First off, the things that I want to talk about first are some optics. So, oh, by the way, I wanted to showcase this. I did get the Mercury camo here on the STG. So that's pretty cool. Looks pretty good. I haven't played with it in-game yet, but I've seen it in-game from other people's perspective. So it looks pretty sick. I have a video coming out soon about that as well, but let's talk about the optics. So there's a couple optics that I would say are some of the best optics in the game, and they each have their own different purpose. Okay, so you have like some base scopes that I would say you could, you know, rotate out depending on the gun you're using, depending on the class that you're using, depending on the playstyle, whatever. And that'll be the Jack glasses optic, the slate reflector, the Morris red dot, which is the true ELO sight in the game, the NIDAR model 2023, and then an MK3 reflector, the XRK on-point optic. These are the top optics in the game to use if you're running just regular builds, or you want to run a fast optic. This is what I would recommend. Now, there's obviously some bonuses to running some other optics. So this AW Gen 1 optic is pretty cool. It's definitely unique. I really wish they would have done this like the actual AW optic and didn't have it so zoomed in, because it wasn't zoomed in AW. But nonetheless, this is a pretty good optic to run. This optic's pretty good too, the SZ Lone Wolf. It's the only true holographic scope in the game, so if you're someone who likes holos, this is pretty much the only thing you're getting. There's a couple of optics in this game that do kind of have the holographic style, but this is the only like true holographic that you would see in like in real life or something. And again, these two are really good. They're just, I want to say they're better than these optics. So if you want to run one of these two or something, I would recommend it. I think that it would be something you could run like a realistic build, like an IRL build, or if you're running something in Warzone, these might not be terrible, right? Especially this red dot here has a little bit of zoom, could be useful in Warzone. And then for longer range scopes, again, I don't really use long range scopes all that much, but if you're running a heavier scope on a rifle, say for example like an MCW on a bigger scope, I do actually recommend the Corio Eagle Eye 2.5 times scope. Has probably the cleanest display when it comes to what it looks like in the lobby, or in the game I should say. But it also reduces the recoil, as I took notice. It doesn't state it to reduce the recoil, but if you use this optic, you will take notice that there's a little less recoil on your gun. And then if you're running for another IRL type of build, you can tell some of these I am running purposely, specifically, that's what I'm looking for IRL builds when I'm doing my IRL guns, when I build basically real life guns in COD, which I have another episode coming soon. But you can tell like this is a scope that I would mainly run on those. I wouldn't run this normally, but this does have some functionality if you're playing zombies and you want a little bit of a scope for zombies. This is actually not a terrible scope to run in zombies. Same with the Eagle Eye. And then obviously we have the hybrid scope. Again, this is the only way to get another holographic scope. But unfortunately it is a hybrid, so you have to deal with that little circle scope as well. Other scopes that I would recommend depends on the weapon. Some guns, this NRG IV optic's pretty good. Obviously, you have all these other red dots like the Slime Pro, the Cronin Mini, then you have like the Cronin Mini Pro, and you have the Sigma IV optic, or I think Sigma 4 optic, whatever. Those ones are pretty decent if you're looking for that style. And then if you're looking for a thermal optic, the best thermal optic right now in the game is going to be this one right here, the FSS Spectro Microtherm. This has some really good variants too. If we go in here and we look at the customization options, I don't have any. I thought I could see them, but anyway, there's I'm sure some of you guys know about this already. There's some other colors you can get with this. There's different bundles. I think there's a red, a green. I think there's even an orange. And those are probably the best. Specifically, I think it's green or red. It's probably the best because it makes the characters green or red outline, which pops out a lot more. That's probably the best thermal scope in the game. If you're going for pistol scopes, we have to put a pistol on real quick because you can only see pistol scopes in the pistol category. Pistol scopes, again, running those 4 or 5 base scopes, the Slate Reflector, the Model 2023, MK3, and the X on Point. These are all really solid pistol scopes, but obviously there's some other really good ones that I don't run, but obviously you could run if you wanted to. I've seen a lot of people run the Caucus, I think I pronounced that right, the reflex sight. This is like a more of a Russian take on a Western scope design. So that's a pretty good scope. Then obviously the Choreo, I used that for a little while back in the day when this game first launched. Now this is a scope that I forgot to mention. If you're going for camos, go use the X10 Angel 40. This has a built-in distance tracker, or basically has a target rangefinder inside of it that allows you to see the distance of what you're shooting. This works for all guns. I don't know why I didn't take notice of this or have this saved on my primary, but you can get this on your primary, your snipers, your ARs, SMGs, shotguns, whatever, which is going to help you guys especially if you're working on like Orion or something where you have to get a lot of long shots. It's really good. But with that being said, those are the optics that I recommend going for. Let's talk about some other things that I would recommend. So first off, one big thing has happened, and I'm going to be making a separate video talking about this. No longer is the JAK BFB the best muzzle in the game, unfortunately. I wish I would have photo evidence of the JAK BFB before nerf, but they did do a secret nerf. This gun used to have, this attachment used to have a 60% recoil gun kick control. I think it was 50% for vertical, and I think 35 or 40% for horizontal. That has been nerfed. They didn't mention this in any patch notes. They just changed it in Season 5. But we also see a huge reduce in ADS movement and ADS speed and sprint to fire speed, and then they also hurt your velocity by 18%. So for example, I have 1100 velocity on this gun right now with the attachments I have on it, but if I put the JAK BFB on, I actually lose a bunch of bullet velocity, and I go down to 955. So that's a huge jump. I mean, that's like almost 160 difference when it comes to the speed and velocity. So if you're running these, don't run them no more. Unfortunately, this was the best in the game with the recoil consumption, because I don't think it had any bullet velocity negatives before. At least it wasn't noticeable, and now it's very noticeable. Moving on, some good suppressors to run. First one is going to be the VT7 Spirit Fire suppressor. This one's okay. If this is all you have, run it, because it's one of the better suppressors in the game. But if you have the other two options that I'm about to mention, please don't run this. Run those two instead, just because that 23% ADS speed reduction. You could obviously counter that by putting some other attachments on that help with ADS. But again, if you have these other two suppressors, run these instead, because they don't hurt your ADS nearly as bad. And so the second one up, of course, off the bat, is going to be probably the best option if you're just looking to get some velocity and increase your velocity a little bit. Is going to be the HM-Res mod suppressor. That's the easiest way to remember it. This one has a 10% velocity increase, with a little bit of recoil reduction. Alright, sorry about that weird edit, boys, but so knocks on the door. Anyway, so you're going to have a little bit of recoil control loss, but nothing crazy. One grip or something, one stock or something will fix that. Otherwise, there's no other positives or negatives to this suppressor. It's specifically designed to give you some extra velocity. That's its focus. And so it's a great suppressor. Like I'm running that right now on my STG, just because the STG's damage is alright. But that velocity is what really matters to the STG, is getting those rounds downrange as quickly as possible. The next up is going to be the Sonic Suppressor. This is probably the best suppressor in the game when it comes to just overall stats. Because you have a 5% effective and minimum damage range increase, and you have the velocity increase. So you can see that this is the 1282. Obviously, if I had this suppressor on, I would go up to 13% velocity, so this might be something that you might play around with. For me, I found my build better with the HM Res, but it would be worth trying both and finding out what works better for you, because both these suppressors are solid overall. You have a little bit of suspension fire speed and a little bit of recoil loss, but not anything noticeable. So those are the two best suppressors in the game, and there is a couple in here like these two, the Harbinger and the Echoless. These two have really good velocities, but you are losing a shit ton of ADS speed, and so that might be something to take into account, right? You don't want to lose too much of that ADS speed. If you put too much weight at the end of your barrel in layman turn, you're going to lose a lot of that ADS speed, and I'm assuming these, if I remember correctly, these are two of the heavier suppressors. There's other suppressor options, like there's suppressors in here that do like barely anything, like this suppressor, the monolithic, that just gives you some recoil control, but you lose ADS speed, but you get nothing for range or damage. So I wouldn't recommend it. Definitely recommend the HM Res and the Sonic. Those are the two I use mostly. Alright, moving on to some other stuff that I think we should go over here, and that's some underbarrel attachments. So this is the biggest question I get asked all the time when people ask me for attachments, is the best underbarrel. And that's because the underbarrels are so complicated for no reason. They really are. Like, there's so many underbarrels in this game that are doing the same exact thing as every other one, but they have different vibes to them. And that's why I feel like this is going to be important for anyone that's interested. So, off the bat, if you're looking for mobility, if you're building a mobility class, you need to be having DR6 hand stop on this thing. Straight up. Yeah, 6% for movement, 10% for crouch. ADS movement is still 7% increase. You get the ADS speed 7% increase, and then the sprint to fire speed increased by 8%, which is pretty good. So there's two of these you could run. You could run the DR6 hand stop, and then if I remember correctly, there's this one, which gives it 8% for movement, 15% for crouch, 11% for ADS, 6 for ADS as well. There's two different ADS speeds. There's the movement one, and then there's the regular. Then there's a sprint for fire speed. You get a little bit of there, but you do lose some tack sprint, and you do lose some hip fire. And so this one, you do the DR6, you lose way more when it comes to hip fire and stack stance, but you do gain a lot more of the other stats. So again, it's just kind of deciding what you're gonna use for. I don't find myself tack stancing at all. So I don't really care if that statistic's really high or something, or really low. It doesn't really bother me. But those two are good for mobility. Now, before all the attachments in this game were added during launch, the best hand stop on the game was the Bruin Heavy Support Grip, and it is still arguably pretty good for the most part. The problem is it's a big, ugly son of a bitch, and it only gives you about 10% for gun kick, and then about 8% for horizontal, and then a negative 4% for vertical. And I'm telling you this because this is shitty compared to what I'm about to show you down here at the end of this list. There's about 150 attachments in this game for just grips alone, and there's a handful of nubs, as they're called, that have a decent recoil control with very little amount of ADS handling or anything like that. So we can go down this list. We're just going to look for the ADS, for the recoil control. So we have the first good recoil control we have is going to be this one right here, the Camaro RYN03 vertical grip. And this is already far better than the Bruin support. It's a 14% recoil hit control. You only lose about 4% for your horizontal, and most barrels give some recoil control for that. So if you run this grip, you're pretty much solid. And then for vertical, you get 12%. I can't fucking English. I'm actually gonna add this to my favorite because I don't know why it keeps getting unfavorited. And you only lose about 5% of your ADS speed and about 2% of your sprint to fire speed. So overall, this is actually not bad. This is quite good. Getting anything under 5 to 10% for ADS speed from these grips is pretty crucial because these grips will slow you down when it comes to ADS speed. A lot of these are not respectful to the ADS speed. And then here's one other one. We have the, right next to it, unironically, is the Camaro Seraphic vertical grip. This one gives about 7% for kick control, 3% for horizontal reduction, and then 8% boost to vertical control. But this one you also get some movement speed increases. You do lose a little bit of ADS speed and a little bit of sprint to fire speed, but not a lot. Again, these two are both fantastic options to use instead of the Bruin. Now, ideally, you wouldn't have had to use these if they had not have nerfed Jack BFB. If you used Jack BFB, that would have been the only recoil attachment you need on your gun. Everything else could have been whatever. But unfortunately, now that they're reduced that, we are going to have to learn how to regain recoil control when it comes to other attachments. But these two are your best options in terms of their abilities. You know, here's another good one too. Honestly, these three right here, you could run these. I don't know why they're not favorited for me, because I do run these on some other guns. But these are your three best options when it comes to just something that gives a little bit of ADS or a little bit of speed, but guess what gives you a good chunk of recoil. Because this has the same stats as this one, except this one, instead of getting mobility stuff, you get handling instead of mobility, which is just really depends on the build you have. Like, if you have say, if you have a stock or something on that gives a lot of mobility stuff, but you're not seeing the stock give a whole lot for handling, don't mind the chuck in the background, but if you're not getting a whole lot of handling, then you might want to run this handling at grip that gives a little bit of recoil, but gives you that handling, so that way you're kind of balancing it a little bit. Now, obviously, if you're going to go for a laser beam gun build and not really focus on too much on mobility, so for example, like Warzone, you might want to run the Mark Floor grip. The Mark Floor gives you 9% for all controls, and then it gives you 10% for hip fires, and 8% for hip fire max, and then you get a 9% for attack stance, but you do lose a little bit of ADS and a little bit of mobility stuff. So keep that in mind when you're going for it. Same thing for the lock grip. These two, again, are going to be very good if you're just focusing on recoil, not really anything else. And again, you can look through these. Those are the best ones I'd recommend. Obviously, a lot of these nubs are usable. Here's a 14%er, but you lose some ADS speed, sprint to fire speed. So any of these grips will do you fantastic for long-range builds. With that being said, the bipods don't really matter. I don't think I've ever used a bipod in this game. Maybe if you want to run this bipod, the bipod V9 grip, that's okay. That gives them good recoil stuff, but you lose a little bit of ADS. The rest of these don't really do a whole lot. And then obviously you have the underbarrels. I just realized I don't have this unlocked, this last one. Not sure what this is all about. Let me know in the chat, if in the comments down below, if you guys have this unlocked. I don't remember seeing this in my armory. Now I'm gonna activate it to see if like what that is all about. But this one basically is a bunch of recoil for horizontal, a bunch of mobility stuff, and some handling stuff. So pretty good hit grip. It's whatever. It's not the most insane grip ever, but yeah, like apparently I never had this unlocked. I don't know how I didn't have this unlocked, but it is what it is. So those are the grips that I recommend, and again, you guys can do this for yourself. I'm gonna make a video all about how to read these stats, how to decide stats going in, and the secrets behind these stats, and the things that matters, and the things that cancel out. Because there's a lot to know about this that if you want to know. Obviously, you can get away with doing how I do it and just looking at the green, but if you really want to get in depth with it, there's a lot of information here on the screen that they don't really explain to you, and you kind of have to learn from experience. And so I plan on making a video on that separately, but you guys can get away with just, for the time being, if you're just still trying to learn, just look for all the greens. More green is better every single time. Let's go into some other stuff that might be useful. For ammo types, the best ammo types are going to be probably the high grain rounds for whatever gun you're using. Mainly due to the fact that they give a 15% increase for pretty much every gun. There is one gun that I took notice. I don't remember which one it is, but there was one gun I took notice recently that only has 14% for instead of 15%. But for the most part, the high grains will always give 15%. They're usually the best. If you're looking for velocity, obviously you can go for high velocity rounds. High velocity rounds usually give 30%. Like this, for example, it only gives 20, but normally you can get 30 for most of them. For barrels, again, not going to really talk about barrels too much because they're different for every gun. But when you're going for the barrels, just focus on something that gives a lot of damage and has or do either a lot of damage or in good mobility, or a little bit of damage in some mobility and some recoil. Just depends on the gun. Stocks, same way. Stocks are different per gun. Same strategy. Go for stuff for focus on recoil or focus on mobility. Most stocks are one or the other. Just decide what you would like on your gun. Lasers. So the thing with lasers in the game, there's only about 2 lasers I ever use, and that's these 2 right here. The SZ1MW peg. This one gives you a little bit of aiming stability. It actually doesn't even state how much of a stability it is. It's so low, but it's very enough that you can actually see the bar go up a little bit. And then there, I use the Schläger Peg Box 4. This gives a little bit of ADS speed. But the thing about these 2 is they don't have any negatives. So there's no laser on your screen. The enemies don't see the laser. There's no flashlight. The enemies don't see the flashlight. So it's really good for if you still want the ability to have a laser in your gun, but not actually have a laser. Just saying. It's a great option. There's obviously far better lasers when it comes to terms of stats that give you increased stats, but you're obviously going to have the downside of having a laser or flashlight being giving your location away. So keep that in mind going forward when you're deciding. Obviously, as well, I'm going to talk about I'm going to do a camo tips and tricks video soon, and one of the things that I will be talking about that I'll kind of give you a little teaser here for it is building your gun specifically for attack sprint. I will mention this real quick, that if you're running through these attachments and you're like, I need attachments, but how do I make my gun have better attack sprint? Just look at the stats. Put anything on in your gun that helps attack sprint or hip fire, and it will make your guns far easier to do for those challenges, because there's actually attachments that are focused. Like this laser is specifically focused to help you with hip fire and attack stance. So it's very nice to have that. Let's see. Magazines, same thing. Magazines, I always like to go in the middle if it has the option. So stock is usually too low, and the drums on these guns are usually make your gun super slow. So I like to go in the middle. For example, the STG, I'm running the 40. It's not the 30 default, but it's not the 50 drum. So like right in the middle. Do that. Rear grips, same problem as most of the other attachments. They're different for every gun. For the most part, there is some oddities that ones that stick out, specifically with the primary weapons. But when you're doing these, I would probably recommend usually whatever grip gives you the most mobility and handling. Those are usually what I'm running. Normally, the recoil control grips don't really give all that much recoil. You can just counter it by using a grip that's actually designed for a recoil control. So keep that in mind. And again, these are just my personal opinions that are usually backed up by lots of evidence via the stats in game. I like to pride myself in having some of the best, if not the best, class setups on the market. If you're looking for class setups, if you would like to copy any of my class setups, majority of them are updated on community. It does take me time to sit down and write everything down to swap everything over. That's something I'm going to be working on now because of the Jack DFB nerf. But if that is something that you're interested in, my community link is in my link tree, and that link tree will be down below. With that being said, there's not really all that many attachments to really choose from in this game, if we're being honest. Most of the attachments are completely fucking useless. Specifically the optics, about 60 to 70% are useless. I wouldn't recommend over half of them to anybody. And this is the problem with modern COD when you're building guns. You've got to learn how to wean out those useless attachments. It may look cool, and that's fine. You can build a gun that looks cool, but if you're looking to build guns that actually get you kills, that actually make you go off and get streaks, there's not all that many options in reality. Okay, it's a giant it's like gambling. It makes you think you're on a winning streak, or it makes you think you're doing something different, but you're really not. If you take notice, most people will run the same attachments, just maybe in a different way, different order or something. But yeah, that's it, man. That's the video. Hope this was found helpful for any of y'all. If you have any more questions about attachments down below, let me know, because I'm always interested to help people out with attachments, learning them. And if you think you found something that I may not have took notice to, let it down below, and I would love to make a video on that and learn it, because we're all learning. At the end of the day, we're all just learning. So that being said, I will have a video out tonight, or not tonight, later today, that will have the new event, as well as the weekly challenges. I will go over them. Those release in about 3 hours for me as of recording this video, so I'll have that out when it's out. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.